the cutest thing ever.
Fillies and gentle colts, I welcome you back to another edition of Pony Fan Fiction Theater. I'm your host Nate. I will be your narrator. With me is John, and he wants to narrate with me as well.
Kind of skeptical about this. You know how badly I suck at reading.
Well, it's kind of like your favorite kind of reading, though.
I know.
This story is called Rarity's Dinner. It's rated mature, and it's angst, and it has horror in it. And if you want to read along, you can look in the description for the link and read along with us. So let's begin. Rarity was hard at work at her sewing machine, carefully pushing the fabric forward with her hoof, when there was a knock on her door. She let out a sigh, annoyed at having her concentration broken, and then put a smile on, and she opened the door, where she was met by Pinkie Pie grinning. "Oh, hello, Pinkie Pie," Rarity said. "What can I do for—" "It's party time," Pinkie said, not waiting for her to finish. "I'm playing the bestest, most fantastic party ever, and I want you to be there." "Oh, well, of course, darling. What's the occasion?" It's to celebrate the fact that it's going to be the most amazing, fantabulous party ever, obviously. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so exciting. I'll see you tonight. So I will see you tonight, Suzuki Pony? Corner, Rarity blinked and then looked at their sewing machine. "Tonight? I'm sorry, Pinkie. I can't. I have got so much work to do, and I set aside this evening to get it all finished, though I suppose I might be able to make it later on." "Okie dokie Loki," Pinkie replied with a shrug. "I'll make sure to save you some cake." Rarity watched Pinkie bounce away and then shut the door. She sighed, thinking about all the fun Pinkie and the other ponies would be having at the party, while she was stuck at the carousel boutique, slaving away at the sewing machine. Still, she knew that she had to get it done, and was not one to shirk her responsibilities. She spent the next couple of hours hard at work, occasionally swatting a hoof absent-mindedly as something darted and fluttered around her head. Some insect, she assumed. It was only when it landed directly in front of her that her eyes widened, and she let out a startled cry. "Oh my stars! It's one of you!" Before her was a parasprite, a small, incredibly cute, but also terribly destructive critter that Rarity recognized only too well. She felt a panic rising as the parasprite chirped at her and blinked innocently. This undoubtedly was bad news. "Oh, no. How did you get here? Go on, get out, shoot!" "You can go."
You sure?
"Yes."
Okay. The parasprite only stared at her, and despite herself, Rarity could not help but think of how adorable the little thing was. "I need to get Pinkie," she thought, remembering how the pink pony had dealt with the things before. But that would mean interrupting her party. "Maybe I could deal with you myself," she said, pondering out loud. The parasprite fluttered around her. First, it tried to nestle around her perfectly styled mane. Rarity shook her head with disgust, and instead it flew towards her tail, brushing lightly against her lips of her labia. I suck at reading. Felt a surge of unexpected tingling pleasure. Ew. And turned her head back with shock and looked at the parasprite. Shit. This is why you shouldn't have me read. It coded gently at cooted. This is why you shouldn't have me read.
Let me pass. It cooed gently at her, blinking its large green eyes, and then it set off again, fleetly teasing her with its wings. Rarity felt her pussy grow wet, and then she felt a mixture of confusion and guilt. It was so strange, having this weird critter touch her in such a way. But the strangeness and wrongness of the situation aroused her. The parasprite returned to her sensitive area, seemingly reacting to the scent of the glistening wetness which now emanated from Rarity's vulva. Oh my, Rarity said, her breathing growing shorter and shallower as the parasprite continued to pleasure her. More. The critter seemed to understand Rarity's demands as it grew more frenzied in its flying, and now rubbing quite vigorously, sending tumults of delight through Rarity, causing her to moan and shiver with ecstasy. Yes, the unicorn cried as the parasprite entered her vulva again and withdrew. I want you to go right inside me, she gasped. Crawl inside me, let me consume you. Bad idea, dude.
She's fucking stupid.
Yeah. The parasprite quests and creeping in right into her vagina until it was entirely inside. Rarity could feel it buzzing, fluttering deep inside of her as it penetrated deep into her vagina. We heard it. This is the first time, damn it. She breathed, enjoying the most bizarre feeling immensely. Enough, she gasped eventually as the pleasure began to turn into a slight discomfort. Come out now. But the parasprite didn't respond in time, as it felt to Rarity as if it was crawling deeper inside of her. The feeling was now entirely distressing, as Rarity tried to strain her back end to force it out, but to no avail. She then felt a pain deep in her gut, as if something was stabbing her from the inside. A moment later, consumed with the ever-growing pain, she realized what was happening. Parasprites were always hungry, and now it was feasting on her insides.
Very nice.
Oh no, come on, get out now, she pleaded, as the parasprite continued to eat, tearing her insides into shreds. She collapsed into the floor, and a few seconds later, the parasprite burst from her chest, sending blood and viscera flying over the floor and the walls of Carousel Boutique. The critter began to gorge on the glistening innards, now openly on display, gulping down Rarity's stomach and kidneys and liver with relish. It delved back into her. Of what little life was left in her was fading fast as the parasprite began to chew on her intestines. Rarity blacked out, never to regain consciousness. A few hours passed. What?
It's amazing how she died. I like it.
Of course, because you hate Rarity.
Yes, of course.
Jesus
Of course.
Christ. A few hours had passed when there was another knock at the door of Carousel Boutique. There was no response. Rarity? Pinky sent me over to see if he had finished. It was Spike. He waited for a moment, then tried again. Rarity? Are you in there? The dragon thought a moment, and then entered Rarity's house through the cat flap, and it was entirely unprepared for the sight that he beheld. Rarity was barely recognizable, just a hollowed-out shell of skin and bones. As the smell of blood and muscle hit his nostril, he took a step back and vomited. He held his breath and edged toward her, hardly able to believe his eyes or his nose. There was a gaping wound in Rarity's belly, and her eyes were open and staring lifelessly into space. As he came nearer, he noticed an odd smell intermingled with a strong smell of flesh, one that set his scales on end as he looked at Rarity's corpse. His eyes fell towards her pussy, still wet from an orgasm the parasprite had given her. Then he felt a strange arousal within him, and a dark thought. No one will ever know. Small red penis had grown erect, and for a couple of moments he stood, uncertain of whether he should proceed. He knew it was wrong, but he had desired Rarity for such a long time, and this would be the only chance he would get to finally realize his fantasies. Of course, Rarity being dead and torn open wasn't ideal, but Spike reasoned it was this or nothing. He repositioned himself and gently slid his penis inside Rarity's cold, slippery pussy. As he began to thrust back and forth, he closed his eyes, imagining that the cold, unresponsive unicorn before him was alive. Bucking and responding his cock, he opened his eyes, suddenly feeling ashamed, and sped up his pounding, eager to come so he would get out of there and pretend that this had never happened. However, just as he was about to climax, he saw a flicker of movement within Rarity's corpse. He shook his head, thinking that he was imagining things. But then there was the most terrible pain in his nether regions, a feeling of sharp teeth and powerful jaws crunching down anxiously on his member. He let out a piercing screech and pulled away from the corpse. However, his penis was gone, replaced by streams of blood pouring from where it should have been. He gasped, and then the blood splattered onto the floor. And before him fluttered in the pepper spray. Spike fell down, feeling ever weaker and more nauseous, until the profuse blood loss was too much for the little dragon to bear. And he died. The end.